In today's video, I'll walk you through all the steps needed to create the miniature train body. Let's get started. I'm going to create a new standard IPT and create a new 2D sketch on the XY plane. We're going to start off the train body by trying to create the back of the cab. I'm going to start with a 2-point rectangle and a 3-point arc. I'll take the 2-point rectangle, attach it to the origin. I'm not going to worry about dimensions yet. We'll place those on here in a minute. I'm going to use the 3-point arc. I'm going to click on the top left and the top right. And all I want to do is make sure when I create this arc that the center point of the arc ends up somewhere inside the rectangle. Now what I'm going to do is place on the 3 dimensions that are necessary to constrain the train. I want a dimension from the bottom to the center point of 0.375 or 3/8 of an inch. I can see that that's dramatically scaled up my shape, so I'm going to click on front to zoom all, and now I'm going to click a dimension from the side to the center point of 1 inch. The last dimension that I need is the radius up on top. We can see from the print that the radius is 2.35. Select enter, and I can see down in the bottom that I'm fully constrained. Go ahead and finish the sketch. I'll put it in home view so I can see the entire sketch. And when we go to extrude, we're going to pick both profiles. So pick the rectangle and the arc up on top. And we're going to extrude that forward at a dimension of 1.75. Great. We have the back of the train created. The next thing I want to do is create the window back here on the side of the train. I'll create another 2D sketch on the side of the train. I'm going to project geometry of the side of the train so that I have something to attach my rectangle to, and a circle. The 2-point rectangle is going to start somewhere on the right side line. Again, I'm not going to worry about dimensions yet. We'll place those on here in a minute. I'll do a center point circle, find the middle of the rectangle, and then go up to the top of the rectangle. Now, I don't actually need this portion of the circle, so I'm going to trim the circle and make that all go away. Great. Now we have some size and location dimensions that we're going to put on there. The print shows us that we have a radius of 0.5 and we have 2 location dimensions. I need to have a location dimension of 0.25 to the center point, and from the bottom to the center point of 1.75. Make sure each time that we have a fully constrained sketch. Great. Finish sketch and extrude. Pick both profiles. Cut. All. Excellent. Now the hard part's really done. What we're going to do now is pull the front engine and the bottom of the train forward off of this front sketch. New 2D sketch on the front. Project geometry. I'm going to take a 2-point rectangle from the origin all the way over to the side, and that's going to create the bottom. I'm going to put a center point circle somewhere up here in this part, and I'm going to make sure that it extends over the bottom of the rectangle that I just made. I'm going to trim that bottom so that it's no longer seen as a full circle, and I can put a radius on instead of a diameter. I'm going to put a radius of 0.75, and then I need 2 location dimensions. A location dimension from the side to the center point of 1, and a location dimension from the bottom to the center point of 1.375. The last dimension that I need is the height of this rectangle across the bottom. So from the bottom to the top of the rectangle, I'm going to place on a dimension of 0.875 or 7/8 of an inch. Fully constrained. We'll finish sketch, extrude the bottom and the engine. The bad part is this dimension I really don't know, and it's not shown in the print. So we're going to let Inventor do the work for us. I know that the train from the entire front to back is 5.5 inches, but I can see visually that that's too long. I need to subtract the initial 1.75 that we developed for the back of the train and say OK. Now, the main part of the train is finished. We're going to go ahead now and create a whole array of holes. We have a hole in the top here, we have a set of holes in the front, we have holes in the sides, we've got a hole in the back. So the hardest one really to do is this one up on the top. And we know this one's going to be the hard one because I can't create a new 2D sketch on something that's round. So first thing we're going to do is a work plane somewhere on this cylinder, and then we're going to choose an origin that'll lay flat. Now every once in a while when I pick this, it'll take my work plane and it'll take it to the bottom, just like that one did. So I'll say undo, and you may have to do this a couple of times. It kind of has to do with where you pick the cylinder. And we'll try that again. Oops, let's try it one more time. There we go. So at first you don't succeed, try again. I can now do a new sketch on this plane. I'm going to rotate the train so that I can see the portion that I'm working on. And all I'm going to do is place a point somewhere on here and do two location dimensions. So I know from the front of the train to the point, I can see I have a dimension of 0.875 from the print, or again 7/8 of an inch. I know it shows no dimension from side to side, so I'm going to have to assume that it was supposed to be in the middle. With the entire train being 2 inches across, should make this 1 inch. Fully constrained. We'll finish sketch and we'll grab our hole tool. So next thing we need to do is we need to look at the print and read the hole note. I can see that it's a blind hole with a diameter of 0.5 and a depth of 0.25. I can see this note here says all holes are drilled with pointed angles, so I can leave the drill point alone. Everything else should be fine. Select OK. The work plane has done its job, so I'm going to go to the edge of it, right click, and turn its visibility off. Great. Next thing we're going to do is a 2D sketch on the front, so we can do the 3 small holes that are in the front of the train. I'll select my point and randomly just kind of place 3 somewhere near where they're going to end up. Alright, we're going to put on the same dimensioning style that they used in the print. So in datum dimensioning, I can see that I have 0.375 over for the first one, 1 inch for the second, and 1 5/8 or 1.625 for the third one. So I have 3/8, 0.375. I have 1 inch, and I have 1.625 for the last one. Great. Now we need to do the vertical dimensions. I have first dimension, 1/8 of an inch, a next dimension of 0.625, and I can see down here that I still need 1 dimension. This last one still needs a dimension, even though it's the same as this first one. I've got a lot of ways I can take care of this one, but I'm just going to put on another dimension. So from the bottom up 0.125, and I'm now fully constrained. Finish sketch. I'm going to use the hole tool. I can see that the hole note shows that it's another blind hole with a diameter of 0.125, a depth of 0.125, and that there are 3 of them, so they're all identical. Select OK. Let's go ahead and do the holes in the side. 2D sketch, Side of the train, same thing. I'll put 2 points on here. From the back of the train forward, I have a dimension of 1 inch. From the back of the train forward, 4.5. From the bottom of the train up, I have a 1/2 inch, and I'll need to do the same thing to try to make sure that this front one is constrained. I have a 1/2 inch. Great. Finish sketch, hole, and we read the hole note. The hole note for this one shows that it is a tapped hole with a 1/4 inch diameter, 20 threads per inch, coarse threads. It's a blind tapped hole with a depth of 0.875, and all 4 of them are the same. Well, I can only see 2 of them from this side, which must mean that there's an identical set on the other side. We'll deal with that in a minute. So let's go ahead and put on the diameter, 0.25. We'll put on a depth, 0.875. We'll come down here and say that it's a tapped hole. And as soon as we do that, it should take the diameter that we had originally typed, place that in the size. The designation, that just happens to be the most common 1/4-20, so it's already there. The one thing you will have to do is make sure that this full depth is check marked. If not, it'll only thread a portion of the hole. So select full depth. Everything else should be fine. Select OK. Right, now we have a set of holes on one side. We need to do the same thing to the other side. Instead of spending the time to recreate those holes, let's go ahead and mirror them. So to do that, we're going to create a mid-plane between 2 planes. Select one side of the train. Use your rotate tool so we can see the other side. And select the other side of the train. That'll put a plane dead smack in the middle for us. I'm now going to mirror pattern one set of holes, and when you pick one, it should grab them both. Mirror plane, select the plane that we have, and it should give you a visual representation that it's going to send those holes over to the other side. And as soon as we select OK, we can see that we do. Great. Last hole is the one that's in the back. I'm going to rotate the train so that we can see the back. New 2D sketch on the back. And one last point. General dimension from the bottom up. I can see from the print that that is 3/8 of an inch. And over should be in the center, so 1 inch. Finish sketch. It is another blind hole. So I'm going to get rid of the tapped hole, come back over to simple hole. It is a 1/4 inch diameter, and it is a 1/2 inch deep, still with a drilled point. Okay, right. That, for the majority, is the train. The last thing we want to do is round off all the edges. And I can see that I have a note here that says, round all edges, radius 0.1 or 100 thousandths, except for the drilled holes. If I come up to fillet, and I get a radius of 0.1, I can say all fillets, all rounds. And I can see, unfortunately, that's doing the inside of the holes and the outside of the holes. So it's not exactly what I want. But I also don't want to go around and pick each one of these because there's quite a few of them. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to grab end part over here from the side, and I'm going to drag that up all the way above the first hole. Because I did all of the holes last and did all the extrusions first, I now should be able to fillet, radius of 0.1, all fillets, all rounds, apply, cancel. Then I can grab end part and act as if I'd done all the holes separately. That should finish the train body for us.